Episode 104 of Pokémon Horizons just left me feeling more than I can even explain. The way it portrayed grief and depression and guilt and self-worth, it honestly kinda broke me. It hit different in a way that felt really personal to me right now. I'll explain why later in the video. For now, let's just dive into the review. This episode revealed that after the events in Larkware a year ago, Amethio split up from Konya and Zir and went on the run. Spinel's forces were actively trying to capture him, and I'm guessing that's why he distanced himself from Zir and Konya. He cares a lot about them and he knew that if they stayed with him, they'd be treated as fugitives too. So yeah, he fled from them so they could stay with the explorers and avoid being hunted. I really respect Amethio for that. It's not really something that I ever predicted, but it makes total sense in hindsight. So yeah, Amethio escaped in a submarine and washed up on a familiar island, and he and his Pokemon decided to stay there for a while. But meanwhile, in the present day, Liko, Konya and Zir head to Amethio's family mansion. I just know that Liko is thinking, wow, Amethio is rich. He's got that old money. Anyway, inside, Konya and Zir explain that Spinel has taken control of both the Explorers and Exceed, and then Liko finds out about Amethio's mother who passed away when he was a kid. Then, when Charcadet finds a photo of young Amethio, his Charcadet and his mother at a beach, everything suddenly clicks in Liko's mind. Amethio could be at that very beach right now. So they video call Amethio's father, who helps them to locate the island, and Amethio's dad is still working under Spinel, but you can tell he's deeply conflicted about it all. And it really does feel like an Amethio's dad redemption arc is brewing. I never thought that was a sentence I'd ever say, but if Amethio's dad does have access to Exceed's database and their files, then that could be a total game changer later. It also turns out that the island they're investigating, where young Amethio went on vacation with his mother, that's also the same island where Amethio first ever met Charcadet. So yeah, the island is tied to some of his final memories with his mum, it's where he met his closest partner, so of course he'd go back there. It makes complete sense. Honestly though, it really has me wondering, how the heck did Konya and Zir fail to find him for a whole year? Between the framed photo in Amethio's house that he clearly values, and the emotional connection he has to the place with his mother and Charcadet, that island should have been one of the first places they checked. But hey, I guess that's really the difference between being a leader and being a minion. Zir and Konya work much better when they're following someone, rather than having to lead themselves. But hey, at least they tried, right? Liko, Konya and Zir set off for the island, and on the way there's a really funny and sweet moment. Basically, Konya went out of her way to buy cat food for Meowscarada on the off chance that Meowscarada would be hungry, because Konya is still obsessed with her like she was at the beginning of the series. We also get a quick flashback of how Konya and Zir joined the Explorers and were assigned to Amethio, and how they grew to admire and respect him over time, and it really gave me major Team Rocket trio vibes, like the Training Days episode where Jesse, James and Meowth joined Team Rocket and gradually bonded. In general, Amethio, Konya and Zir really do feel like trio's spiritual successors, you know? And I'm here for that, dude. But meanwhile, Amethio, now with a cool and more mature timeskip design, he do be sitting on that beach with Ceruledge. I really love how different Amethio looks. He's clearly been through it, and you can tell by his messy, overgrown hair, his more skinny, lanky body, his sunken eyes. I guess a year of isolation after such a traumatic event will change anyone, and he's really starting to resemble his grandfather Gibeon too. Amethio is really heavily being weighed down by his thoughts and emotions. He doesn't know how to follow Gibeon's guidance after he passed away. He doesn't know if he can or should rely on Hamba, Konya or Zir. He doesn't want to face his father, and that's why he's been here on this island for so long. Amethio is stuck carrying the weight of everything and not knowing what to do. It's honestly heartbreaking, man. Trying to balance grief and regret and reflecting on the past while also trying to find a way forwards. That is really not an easy thing to maneuver. Trust me on that one. I'm feeling that myself right now. But I just really hope that Amethio realizes that he's not alone. He does have great allies who are there for him. He still has the power to make change and to push onwards, even if he doesn't feel like it right now. Amethio then thinks back to the first time he met Charcadet here as a kid, and back then his mother asked Charcadet to promise to always protect Amethio, and knowing that she passed away so soon after that makes the memory even more powerful. It explains why Ceruledge is so close to Amethio. Then a hidden, mystical, ghostly figure walks past past Amethio. I'm guessing that's the spirit of his mother, and her being here brings him a lot of peace. Man, they really are going for the emotional jugular here, dude. But then, shortly after, Liko, Konya, and Zir arrive at the island on their boat, and Amethio, after getting over his sheer shock and disbelief at seeing them, he can't help but smile in relief. Our heroes reunite and they begin conversating over a campfire. And man, it feels weird including Amethio, Konya, and Zir when I say our heroes. But it just feels right now, you know, they are on our side. Liko, Konya, and Zir can sense that something is kind of off about Amethio, and Charcadet tries to bond with Ceruledge, but Ceruledge is very clearly shut off and not willing to entertain it. But seeing the connection between Liko and Charcadet, that reminds Amethio of his bond with Ceruledge. Liko, Konya, and Zir fill Amethio in on everything that's happened in the past year, and Amethio isn't that shocked about everything that Spinel has done, or at least he wasn't until he learned that the Larkwium is back through the Strong Spheres. That enrages Amethio. But regardless of that, when Liko and Zir and Konya beg Amethio to join them and help him again, Amethio immediately shuts down the idea. He tells them that he'd be no good helping. He's useless and powerless now without his grandfather and without the explorers. And this is genuinely masterclass character writing, dude. You have to remember that Amethio, despite being fired from the explorers by his grandfather, he was still wholly and overwhelmingly loyal to them. It was ingrained into Amethio for his whole life that his purpose was to fulfill his grandfather's dreams through the explorers. Even when Amethio turned against his grandfather in Larkwa, it was still to protect and save him. It was to save his grandfather's life and to lead the explorers into a better direction. He never ever turned his back on Gibeon or the explorers. They were the two biggest parts of his life. They were the two things that made him him. They really were his identity. So now Amethio losing both his grandfather and the explorers, the very two things that were his entire life, of course he would feel useless and worthless now. Of course he would feel like he has nothing left to give, because everything he had is gone. That's incredible character writing and so in line with everything we've seen from Amethio so far. I can't describe enough how much I loved this decision from the writers. But then Liko, being the absolute goat she is, she throws Amethio's own words back at him. She reminds him how he once told her back in that cave a year ago to not just give up after the first setback, and now she's telling him the same. Is he really gonna give up? Charcadet then steps in and keeps trying to pick a fight with Ceruledge. Amethio tells it to stop, it stands no chance, but Liko really pushes for the battle to happen and eventually Amethio agrees. At first in the battle, Charcadet really does struggle. All of its attacks are easily countered by Ceruledge, and then Ceruledge, even without putting any effort in, is just so fast that Charcadet struggles to dodge, but Charcadet then uses Clear Smog to block Ceruledge's vision. I love that move choice for Charcadet. It could open up a lot of fun battle strategies in the future for Liko, but when Charcadet tries to attack through the smoke, Ceruledge suddenly appears behind him with Phantom Force, hitting Charcadet down unbelievably hard. Charcadet is on the ground and nearly knocked out, but man, this little guy is a fighter. He gathers up all of his energy and manages to stand up. Charcadet and Liko are totally in sync now, both refusing to give up and impressing everyone. And then in a really climactic moment, Charcadet manages to dodge a huge attack like an absolute pro, and he smashes a devastating ember straight into Ceruledge. And for the first time, Ceruledge is actually shocked. It's like it jolted some life into him and he starts taking Charcadet seriously. Ceruledge's eyes light up, like he's truly alive for the first time in a year, and then Ceruledge unleashes his full power and knocks down Charcadet. The battle is called off, but Ceruledge is clearly fired up and happy. A newfound rivalry has formed between the two of them. And Amethio really notices that change in Ceruledge too. He sees the eyes of his closest partner lighting up, and that totally inspires Amethio to wake up and stop moping around too. He thought he lost everything when he lost his grandfather in the explorers, and he thought that made him useless. But now he's realized in the very place where he first met his Ceruledge that he didn't lose everything a year ago, because he still has Ceruledge. And seeing Ceruledge find his spark again through Charcadet, that's all Amethio needed to find himself again too. He may not have Gibeon or the explorers by his side, but he does have Ceruledge by his side, and because of that, he's not useless at all. Man, I can't put into words how truly perfect this writing is. This is wholeheartedly one of the best written episodes of the whole anime. Okay, quick edit, this is future me speaking. I just rewatched the episode and I think I might have gotten a little bit carried away and maybe slightly misinterpreted what happened here. Everything I just said. It seems that the main reason that Amethio is going to keep pushing forwards and keep fighting, it's not all about him and Ceruledge like I thought it was. I think it's mainly because Liko and Charcadet refused to give up the entire fight. Even against Ceruledge when the odds were against them, they kept giving it their all. And Amethio sees himself and his Ceruledge in Liko and her Charcadet. So seeing them refusing to give up in the battle and then calling it back to the cave conversation a year ago, that was what Amethio needed to get him out of his rut and to keep fighting forwards himself. He doesn't want to give up either. I mean, to be fair, who knows? I think all the stuff I said about Ceruledge isn't wrong, because there was definitely a noticeable difference with Ceruledge after the battle, but the main reason is the whole not giving up thing. And then everything I just spieled about him and Ceruledge, maybe that's like a deeper below the surface, reading between the lines kind of reason. I just wanted to make that clear quickly because I think I got a bit carried away. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the video. Amethio tells Konya and Zir that they need to stay separated from him so they can act as spies within the Explorers, but then they're absolutely overjoyed when he tells them that he's ready to move forwards on his own path too. They give him the Zygarde cube and he decides that he's going to go and gather all of the Zygarde cells. And that's a really great writing decision. It keeps Amethio separate from the main gang while also giving him his own big critical mission. And I'm betting at the end of Horizons he'll have gathered all of the Zygarde cells, and then he'll summon Zygarde Complete Form to help defeat Spinel. That's gonna be so dope, man. The episode then ended with Konya and Zir returning to the Explorers, and Hamba crying with joy that Amethio is okay, and Chaos spying on them and finding out they're all traitors and Amethio is back, and Liko reuniting with Roydot and Uruto, all while Amethio sets off on his new journey. Man, this episode was incredible. The writing and storytelling and character development was on another level. I'm so excited to see where it leads, that Chaos now knows that Zir, Konya and Hamba are traitors. But what I want to talk about the most is how much I absolutely loved and adored how Liko's Charcadet was portrayed in this episode. This episode was Charcadet's first focus episode since he got caught, and wow did it deliver. Charcadet showed so much heart and spirit and personality, refusing to give up even when completely outmatched by Ceruledge, and that sheer determination didn't just impress the others, it genuinely changed them. Charcadet managed to wake Ceruledge up from its emotional rut, and that in turn snapped Amethio out of his depression too. That's an insane amount of narrative weight and emotional impact for a brand new Pokemon. These writers really did deliver something special, dude. I can't believe the impact that Charcadet has already had on the greater story. It's so unprecedented, man. I also feel like this episode quietly proved how great Liko is as a protagonist too. She paid attention and used her heart to help find Amethio, and then she listened to him and mirrored his own past advice back at him. And yeah, I don't know, all of that wrapped up with the themes of grief and guilt and depression and self-worth. That truly did make this episode a special one, man. One that I could really connect with. All of those feelings, grief, guilt, depression, self-worth, reflecting on the past, not knowing how to go forwards, they're all things that I'm really going through personally at the moment, because unfortunately, really recently, I lost someone who's really important to me. So I don't know, man, seeing similar themes portrayed in this episode, how to push onwards and find your path after losing such a big part of yourself, it really broke me, you know, it really got to me. But it also helped me too, because if Amethio can find himself again after everything he lost, then I know I can too. Let me know your thoughts on this episode below and feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. That would really mean a lot to me, man. Thank you so much to my amazing current channel members like Dowpals, Toten, Shiny, Melissa, Jay, Kadia, Blazing Shots, Not Mini, Racco, Zach, Pokesan, Hope, The Duff One. You guys are absolute legends and I really do mean that. And on that note, thank you all so much for watching and best wishes until we meet again.